All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving deep, really getting into it with this one.
Yeah, good fun.
We're talking all about how to create passionate, skilled, I think importantly, habitual and critical readers.
Hmm.
And our roadmap for this whole deep dive is the book, The Reading Zone, by Nancy Atwell and Anne Atwell Merkel. So, all the good stuff we're sharing with you, the listener, it all comes directly from that book.
Yeah, that's right. Our mission today is to break down those key ideas, those core principles, and get into some practical approaches. How to actually create these readers who love to read and have those really strong skills.
Yeah, I like that.
So whether you're a parent, an educator, or just, someone who's fascinated by the power of reading, I, I think this deep dive is for you. And at the heart of it all, what the book really emphasizes is that we need to create an environment where reading isn't a chore. It's got to be enjoyable. It's got to be accessible.
Yeah, I love that. Like a place where reading can really flourish.
Exactly. It's like setting the stage for kids to fall in love with books and grow into those strong readers.
Yeah.
Lifelong readers, not just for a semester or a year.
For life, that's what we want.
Exactly.
So, to kick things off, let's dive right into this really central idea that gives the book its name, the reading zone.
Yeah, the reading zone.
Yeah.
It's not just a cool title. It actually gets at something pretty profound about what happens when we connect with a book on a deeper level.
Yeah, like what's going on in our brains, in our experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this idea was described really well by Thomas Newkirk. He talked about it as this state of intense involvement, genuine pleasure, that feeling you get when you are just completely absorbed in a book.
Yeah, totally. I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah, you're not just decoding words, you're totally lost in the
You're
thing.
living it.
Absolutely.
And the book actually shares these amazing descriptions from students about what it feels like to be in the zone.
Oh, yeah, what they say.
Many of them, they described it as like having a private movie playing in their head, but like even better.
Like even more immersive.
They felt like they were right there in the story, maybe even becoming a character. They completely lose track of time, of where they are. It's like being transported.
It is. It's so powerful. And, it's really fascinating for you, the listener, to consider is that these students, they connected this really focused state, this zone, to the conditions in their learning environment. Like what helped them get there?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like what set the stage for them to enter the zone?
Yeah, they pointed to several really key elements that consistently helped them get into and stay in that reading zone. So one big one was engaging book talks, where teachers just shared their excitement for books.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned these brief mini lessons that focused on, specific reading skills.
Yeah, like bite-sized learning.
Exactly. It gave them tools, but it didn't overwhelm them.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, having access to a big, diverse classroom library, tons of books all over the place. And that library is constantly being refreshed with new titles, so it's always exciting.
It's like a treasure trove of stories right at their fingertips.
Absolutely. And then they talked about having dedicated quiet reading time during the school day. So they had this protected space to really immerse themselves in a book. No distractions.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, right? To carve out that time and space for focused reading.
Absolutely. And of course, the ability to choose their own books, like that free choice of what they want to read, the author, the genre, that was really important for them. That feeling of ownership over their reading.
Makes a huge difference, right? Like you're not just being told what to read.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the driver's seat. And that taps into that, psychological principle of autonomy, which, makes learning way more enjoyable and sustainable. You're more likely to stick with it.
You're intrinsically motivated.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about picking anything off the shelf. They also valued recommendations from their friends and teachers. And they even had this cool Books We Love display. So you could see what your classmates were into.
That's great, like a community of readers.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting, even little things like being physically comfortable while reading, having cushions, comfy chairs.
Oh, yeah, that matters.
It made a difference.
Yeah. When you're not distracted by, a crick in your neck or an uncomfortable chair.
Yeah.
It's easier to focus.
It's the little things.
Yeah.
They also mentioned really enjoying writing these thoughtful essays about the books they read, these letter essays that they would share with their teacher and sometimes with their friends, and those one-on-one conversations with teachers about what they were reading.
It's a very personalized approach, right?
Very personalized.
Yeah.
Very responsive.
And it seemed to have worked.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So, tying this all together for you, the listener, all of these things, they're all meant to foster deep comprehension. to help kids build reading stamina, that ability to read for longer stretches without losing focus, and to minimize distractions.
It's setting the stage for success, right?
Absolutely. Because when the environment is right, it's so much easier to get into that reading zone, and that's where the real magic happens, where the reading growth takes off.
Where the learning takes place, yeah.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about another really big idea in the book. Frequent, voluminous, and crucially self-selected reading.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's like the trifecta.
Like the recipe for creating strong, engaged readers.
Absolutely. So what the authors found, and this is important for you, the listener, to know, there's a strong correlation between students who read a lot and who choose what they read and how well they do on those standardized reading tests.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's not just about drilling specific skills in isolation.
Right. It's about the sheer volume of reading, that breadth and depth.
And the choice involved.
Exactly. And the reason this works, it's because it gives kids a chance to practice comprehension, build vocabulary naturally, and all within a context that's actually interesting to them. So they're learning, but it feels enjoyable. And when something's enjoyable, you're going to remember it better.
Absolutely. You're going to engage with it more. You're going to retain it.
Exactly. And the faculty at CTL, they really get this. CTL, by the way, stands for the Center for Teaching and Learning.
Good reminder.
Yeah. So they truly believe that when kids connect with books, when they have a genuine love for them, they're so much more motivated to actually read.
It's like unlocking that internal drive.
It is. It is. And the key to that is letting them choose what they want to read. So it's not about forcing a book on them.
It's about offering a buffet and letting them pick.
Exactly.
And it's amazing the amount of reading they see at CTL. The book mentions something like an average of 40 titles per year for 7th and 8th graders.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it really shows the impact of this approach, right?
Yeah, it really does. It shows that if you give kids autonomy, if you help them fall in love with books, they'll read, and they'll read a lot.
It's hard to imagine trying to create that same level of passion and volume through a textbook alone, right?
Yeah, it's a different kind of engagement. The book really emphasizes that contrast.
Yeah.
And the teacher's role is so important here. It's not about assigning books and giving tests. The authors talk about how teachers should be active readers themselves, reading many of the books they recommend to their students.
Right, so they can have those genuine conversations with their students about those books.
Exactly. It's about being a fellow reader, a guide, not just a facilitator.
And it makes sense because, like the book says, the delivery system for comprehension is reading. There's no way around it.
Right. You have to read to get better at reading.
So true.
All right. So let's move on to another really interesting part of the book, which is this idea of making reading easy. And, it's important to clarify what they mean by that. They're not talking about dumbing down the material or anything like that. It's about getting rid of the obstacles, those things that get in the way of a reader enjoying and engaging with a book.
Like removing the friction.
Absolutely. It's about clearing the path.
Yeah.
And they quote this great line from Frank Smith. He said, "Children learn to read only by reading. Therefore, the only way to facilitate their learning to read is to make reading easy for them."
So true.
It's about reducing frustration, minimizing those distractions, and then letting that natural, intuitive process of reading just unfold.
Just let it flow.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they talk about how for kids, a lot of story reading happens almost subconsciously.
Yeah, they get swept away by the story, by the images in their mind, the emotions.
Like they're not analyzing every word, every sentence.
Right. It's a more holistic process. It's intuitive.
And to back this up, they bring in these really cool ideas from other thinkers. Like Mark Turner, he talks about story as the fundamental instrument of thought.
Yeah, he's saying our ability to think, to understand the world, it's all based on this foundation of narrative.
Interesting. And then Thomas Newkirk, he takes that even further and says that narrative is at the core of all good writing, even writing that we think of as informational.
So it challenges that idea that, there's this hard line between narrative and informational text.
Like it's all connected.
Exactly. And even those informational texts that we find really engaging, they often have these underlying narrative structures that make them work. That's how we connect with them, right? How we make sense of information.
So true.
So in terms of making reading easy, well, at CTL, they have this amazing variety of genres in their classrooms. Fiction, nonfiction, poetry, drama, you name it, it's there.
So there's something for everyone.
Exactly. And then they have this really cool Books We Love collection where they showcase all these highly engaging and accessible titles. So you can walk in and be like, ooh, what's that? What's that?
I love that. It's like a curated collection of awesomeness.
It is. It is. And then even the little things like their book checkout system, they use these simple stapled index cards. No fuss, no muss.
Keeps things simple.
Yeah. And they give younger kids overnight book bags so they can easily take books home and bring them back. It's all about removing those little hurdles that might discourage a kid from reading.
It's the little things.
It is. And I was really struck by this. The teachers at CTL, they make it a point to check in with their students every day to see if they're actually enjoying and understanding the books they're reading.
It's like a daily pulse check.
It is. So they don't really need to do all those worksheets or quizzes, because if a teacher knows that a student is engaged and comprehending, why bog them down with extra stuff?
Makes sense.
And they have this really cool way of categorizing book difficulty that's really non-judgmental. They use these categories: holiday, challenge, and just...
Right?
I like that. Like, it's not about labeling a kid.
Right. It's about helping them find that sweet spot where reading is both enjoyable and helps them grow. And while they're all about making reading easy, they also give kids strategies for dealing with unfamiliar words. But it's all done within the context of real reading.
Yeah, so no isolated vocabulary drills. It's all about applying those skills in a real-world setting.
And they also teach practical stuff, like how to navigate the reading workshop routines, how to explore books effectively.
Yeah, like how to preview a cover, read a blurb, use the index, all those things that make you a more independent reader.
Right. Empowering them with the tools.
Exactly.
Ah.
And they contrast this with a more traditional approach where there's a lot of emphasis on comprehension strategies and analyzing text features. And their argument is that constantly stopping to dissect those features can actually interrupt the flow of reading.
It can take you out of the experience.
Exactly. And that can hinder comprehension. You know, when you're constantly stopping and analyzing, you might miss the bigger picture.
You lose that immersion.
Exactly. And they even bring in some neuroscience, suggesting that mature brains, with all their complexity, might actually be more prone to distractions during reading than the still developing brains of kids.
That's interesting. Like, kids might actually be better at focusing in some ways.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it emphasizes the importance of creating that really focused, distraction-free environment for young readers.
Makes sense.
And for those students who have struggled with reading in the past, the key is to help them find that first book that truly sparks joy.
Like that gateway book.
Yeah, that one that makes them say, oh, I actually like this.
I get it. I can do this.
Exactly. And they highlight the power of audiobooks.
Oh, yeah. Audiobooks are great.
They can be so helpful for struggling readers, including those with dyslexia.
They shared this great anecdote about a kid named Samuel.
Oh, yeah. What about him?
He actually developed a strong sight vocabulary by reading along with audiobooks, even though he had trouble with phonics.
That's amazing. It shows that there are different paths to literacy.
Yeah. So important to remember that. So it all comes back to observing what each child can and can't do, and then making reading easier for them.
Yeah, meeting them where they are and creating that supportive environment.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about choice.
Ah, choice.
A
A cornerstone.
A huge part of the book's philosophy. The authors really advocate for giving students a lot of say in what they read.
Yeah, and they talk about this wonderful concept called the Reader's Bill of Rights.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was created by Daniel Pennack.
Yeah.
And it includes all these fundamental rights,
Yeah.
like the right not to read, the right to skip pages, the right not to finish a book, the right to reread, even the right to read anything.
It really celebrates that personal connection we have with books. It's so refreshing.
It is. And, the students at CTL, they even came up with their own addition to the Bill of Rights.
What was it?
They proposed the right to free access to lots of good books.
I love that. So much wisdom there.
It really speaks volumes about what they value.
Yeah. And the teachers at CTL, they really try to understand each student as a reader.
They use these reading surveys to learn about their reading identities, their preferences, their attitudes towards reading.
It's all about getting to know them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they can make better recommendations, have more meaningful conversations.
And the classroom library is crucial for this.
Oh, absolutely. They talk about having at least 20 books per student. It's a huge investment, but they see it as essential.
It's like building a library for each child.
It is.
And the book selection process is really thoughtful.
Yeah, they read reviews, they pay attention to student interests. It's all about keeping the library relevant and engaging.
And then there were the book talks, which
Yeah.
are so important for creating excitement around all these books.
Yeah, teachers and students share these little, mini presentations about books they've enjoyed.
Just enough to pique your interest.
Exactly. And they gave a great example in the book of a book talk for Noggin. It was fantastic. The teacher's enthusiasm was contagious.
I bet. And it's not just verbal recommendations. They have that Books We Love display where students can share their favorites with their classmates.
Yeah, peer recommendations are so powerful.
Absolutely. And they even have these kids recommend master lists on their website, organized by grade and gender.
It's like a treasure map to great books.
And all this choice, it really makes a difference. They see students growing as readers, reading more, and broadening their interests.
They're becoming more adventurous.
They accept.
And sometimes, they even see older students reading books that adults read.
It's amazing. They're not limited by grade level or expectations.
Exactly.
And of course, they talk about the importance of respecting parents' values and concerns.
Yeah, open communication with parents is key. They want to work together to understand each child and what's right for them.
They shared some great examples of those conversations, like with Will's and Zach's fathers.
Yeah, it's about building those relationships, that trust.
And they also talk about this whole idea of book quality in a really nuanced way.
Yeah, they give kids permission to abandon books they don't like.
Which is so important, right?
It is. It's about respecting their time and their preferences.
And they observe that students actually develop their own sense of what makes a good book through experience.
Yeah, even if a book is a page-turner, they start to notice differences in writing quality.
That's fascinating. So they're becoming more discerning readers.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, they say the most important should in reading workshop is that students should read for joy.
That's the foundation.
Because once they have that, they'll naturally develop their own taste.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about checking in with readers, which seems like a really crucial part of the CTL approach.
Yeah, checking in is all about making sure everyone's doing okay, that they're engaged, they're happy, they're in the zone.
So it's not about grilling them on the book.
Right. It's not about tests or quizzes. It's about connecting with them as readers.
And they stress that these check-ins should happen daily, especially for new students.
Yeah, regular check-ins are so important for building that rapport, that trust.
And they gave some helpful examples of the kinds of questions they asked, like, what are you reading? How's it going? Are you happy with your book?
It's simple, but it opens up those lines of communication.
Yeah.
And they also talk about those conversations that go beyond just the current book.
Like what?
Like if a student isn't enjoying a book, maybe they talk about abandoning it and exploring their someday list.
Right, that list of books they're intrigued by.
Yeah, it's about giving them options, encouraging them to explore.
And the book highlighted Anne's approach to these check-ins.
Oh yeah, she's got a great style.
They describe her as a more experienced reader, sharing her own strategies and using literary terms in a very natural way.
Yeah, it's not a formal lesson on literary theory, but it's introducing those concepts in a really meaningful context.
And these check-ins are also great opportunities to bring in those important critical reading concepts and vocabulary.
Yeah, they might talk about character development, plot, theme,
Yep.
genre, all those terms that can sound intimidating, but they're making them relevant to the student's experience.
And the authors reference Margaret Meek's idea that good readers pick their own way to literacy.
I love that quote.
It's all about encouraging that exploration, that self-discovery, with support from trusted adults.
And those check-ins, they're a big part of that support.
Now, after all this active engagement with reading, the book then shifts to writing about reading.
Ah, yes, taking that engagement to another level.
They frame literary criticism not as some highfalutin academic exercise, but as a way for anyone to make sense of their reading.
Yeah, to go deeper, to explore those ideas and reactions.
And they talk about how writing about books can actually enhance the pleasure we get from reading.
It helps you solidify those takeaways, work through any confusion.
It can even give you a fresh perspective on something you thought you knew.
Absolutely. And at CTL, they use these things called letter essays.
Oh yeah, tell me about those.
So they're for students in grades 3 through 8. And they're kind of like dialogue journals, but focused on books.
So what's the goal?
The goal is for students to really delve into those literary features and techniques, but within a complete work. And they always have to include an excerpt from the text to back up their points.
So it's not just about summarizing the plot.
Right, it's about going deeper, analyzing, interpreting.
And how does the process work?
So they usually start by rereading parts of the book, jotting down their thoughts, what they call writing off the page. And then They frame their criticism as a letter, either to the teacher or a friend.
It's a nice informal way to approach it.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off. And the book actually includes an example of the letter the teachers send to introduce the letter essays.
Oh, cool.
And the criteria for a good letter essay are often developed with the students.
I like that, giving them ownership.
Absolutely.
And they even offer some helpful paragraph starters to get them going.
Yeah, little prompts to help them move beyond just summarizing the plot.
And the book includes excerpts from actual student letter essays and the teachers' responses.
Yeah, they're so insightful. You can see these kids engaging with complex themes, analyzing the author's choices, making connections to their own lives. It's amazing.
It's powerful stuff.
It is. And they also encourage students to keep a critic's journal where they can jot down thoughts about the books they're reading.
So they can track their reading journey over time.
Exactly. And sometimes they even write full-fledged book reviews, which they might even publish online.
Wow. So they're becoming real critics.
They are. And the authors argue that this kind of writing about reading leads to more diverse and original responses than you might get in a whole class discussion.
Yeah, because everyone's bringing their own unique perspective.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about discussion and close reading. It's interesting to see how these things work in a classroom where everyone's reading different books.
Yeah, because at CTL, they don't really do whole class novel studies.
Right, because everyone's on their own reading path.
Exactly. So the discussions tend to be more organic, sparked by shared interests.
Like a natural flow of conversation.
Yeah, but they do have this daily practice called unpacking a poem.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
So it's a short activity, usually about 10 minutes, where the whole class engages with this single poem.
So a shared experience.
Exactly. And the goal isn't to analyze every line, but to build those critical thinking skills, expand vocabulary, and foster an appreciation for poetry.
It's like opening a door to a new world.
It is. And at the end of each trimester, students have to pick their favorite poems and explain why they chose them.
So they're really thinking about what resonates with them.
Absolutely.
And the book makes a distinction between this unpacking a poem activity and the way close reading is often done with the Common Core.
Yeah, they see those Common Core close reading lessons as being very teacher-directed, focused on finding the one right answer.
And they can be really time-consuming, right?
Yeah, sometimes they take up way too much class time.
And the authors point out that this type of close reading comes from the new criticism movement, which rejected considering any outside information about the author or the historical context.
Yeah, it's all about the text itself.
Which contrasts with the way the authors learned about literature, where personal response and context were important.
Exactly. It was a different time.
So how does the CTL approach to poetry work?
So they read the poem multiple times, first focusing on those initial reactions, those gut feelings. Then they clarify any unfamiliar words, maybe using context clues or building a class lexicon. And only then do they start to look for literary devices and deeper meaning.
It's a more organic process, right?
Yeah, it's about discovery, not just finding the right answer.
And they talk about how students at CTL learn story grammar not through explicit instruction, but through all the reading they do.
Yeah, they're absorbing those patterns and structures naturally.
They shared a cute anecdote about a kindergartner who, after reading a book about chopsticks, started using cinnamon sticks as chopsticks.
Oh, that's adorable.
It shows how kids internalize stories and act them out.
It's so true. They live in those stories.
And the authors also address the Common Core's emphasis on informational text over fiction.
Yeah, they recommend a 70-30 split, but the authors argue that narrative is essential for learning across all subjects.
Makes sense. We learn through stories.
We do.
And they gave examples of nonfiction books that their students love, pointing out that those books often have engaging narrative structures and strong voices.
They're not your typical dry textbooks.
And Anne actually teaches her students a specific procedure for reading and studying history and science texts.
Oh yeah, she's got a system.
It involves previewing, reading, rereading, annotating, summarizing. It's a very active process.
It is.
But they're very clear that they don't believe in forcing content integration into reading and literature.
Yeah, they think it can actually hurt those subjects.
And they close this section with a great quote from Ursula K. Le Guin about the power of storytelling.
I love her work.
Me too.
So now let's talk about high school.
Okay, high school.
The book shares some pretty discouraging feedback from CTL graduates about their reading experiences in high school.
What did they say?
Well, a lot of them said they felt like they read much less in high school, even though they were still doing well academically.
That's interesting. So their love of reading kind of diminish.
Yeah, and it's not just them. There's research that shows a general decline in pleasure reading among teenagers.
It's a trend.
It is. And these CTL alums, they felt like their high school English classes were too focused on surface-level analysis, like they were being told what to think instead of being encouraged to explore their own interpretations.
And that's a big contrast to what they experienced at CTL.
Huge contrast.
And it's kind of ironic, right? Because these kids are actually very prepared for college-level reading.
They are, but high school kind of stifles them.
So what are the main reasons for this decline?
They mentioned a lack of choice, not enough interesting books, not enough time to read in class, and just a less supportive reading culture overall.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One alum even talked about becoming the go-to book recommender for his friends because there wasn't really a reading community at his school.
That's sad.
It is. And independent reading often isn't prioritized for homework, so it's hard for teenagers to find the time.
So many demands on their time.
I know. And they described the activities in their high school English classes as often not involving actually reading a lot,
Like what?
like working in small groups on isolated parts of a novel, analyzing random passages under pressure. They said it felt like watching a movie with constant interruptions for quizzes.
It's so fragmented.
It is. And the authors then share a reflection on their own childhood reading experiences, talking about how those immersive experiences with complete books really shaped their identities.
They mention books like A Time of Wonder, Little Women, Pride and Prejudice.
Classics.
Yeah, and how those books really stayed with them.
It's so different from that fragmented reading experience they see in high school.
And they talk about how even beloved books like Hamlet and The Great Gatsby can lose their magic when you're forced to analyze them to death.
Yeah, you lose the joy of the story.
And they acknowledge that parents and personal motivation can help keep kids reading even when school isn't supportive.
Yeah, sometimes it's those outside forces that keep the flame alive.
They also shared a story about an alum who rediscovered his love of literature in college after avoiding English classes in high school.
It's like he had to unlearn those negative experiences.
And it makes you wonder, why is it okay for high school to diminish the role of pleasure reading?
It's such a crucial part of learning and development.
And while they understand the challenges facing high school teachers, they argue that the current systems aren't working.
Yeah, we're not creating the readers we want.
So what are their suggestions for improvement?
They talk about bringing back independent reading, giving students more choice, increasing reading volume, offering more engaging books, making time for reading workshop, and finding a better balance between independent reading and whole class texts.
Sounds like a good plan.
And they highlight how important choice is for teenagers, especially as they're figuring out who they are.
It's about letting them explore their identities.
Exactly. Yeah. And they say that teachers need to prioritize reading in their own classrooms.
Lead by example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they cite research showing that pleasure reading actually helps with vocabulary, spelling, even math skills.
So it's not just about English class.
Right? It has a ripple effect.
And they even share Anne's weekly schedule for middle school language arts to show how it can be done.
Yeah, she finds time for writing workshop, book talks, read-alouds, and independent reading.
It's about making it a priority.
It is, and they restate the goals of reading workshop, creating passionate, habitual, critical readers.
That's the mission.